A very special thanks to PlayStation for giving me the code of Stellar Blade. Thank you so much for helping me out. With Stellar Blade, everybody talks about the jiggle physics and how hot the costumes look. However, the story of this game is also utterly disappointing. For those of you guys who don't know, Stellar Blade is an action-adventure game set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where humanity has lost a war against natives and have driven away from Earth. You play as Eve, who is sent to Earth from Colony to take out these natives and take back Earth. A very simple plot, which over time expands and you finally figure out that it's not really the case and things are different. The moment you start the game, you would see how impressive the game looks. Visually, it's amazing. The lighting is really great. The textures are great. It plays very well. Combat is fun. You have great enemies. You have great combos, especially in boss fights, because when you're ending the boss fight, you have this slow-mo feature, action-packed, jumping all over the place, over the top kind of ending. All of that is amazing. That prologue, that beginning is actually very good because it sets the story forward. You saw your friend who's fighting alongside you save you and then get killed in action, and then you were saved by another person called Adam. So it kind of sets that story, and then you are again brought back into this earth, brought back to kind of continue your mission while still feeling the effects of how your friend kind of died. Unfortunately though, from there onwards, everything went flat. First, I wanted to talk about characters because in my opinion, when I saw Eve and how she played and how she fought and her kind of momentum that she went through in fights, I thought that she's an android. I really thought that she's some kind of a robot because even in the game, she talks about how she doesn't know what this rain is and then finally figured out that, oh, okay, this is called rain in Earth. And she didn't know much of the things that is present in this environment, and Adam, who is controlling the drone, will have to kind of explain on what these items are. So you don't see this character called Adam physically standing right in front of you or, walking alongside you because he's just controlling the drone. But the fact that from there onwards to 50% of the game, nothing interesting happens in terms of story. While Adam does show that there's Zion, which is the humanity's last cities in Earth, and it needs protection, but we need these hypercells to rebuild it, and also a core that only can be found from alpha natives. So now we have to defeat them so that we can get those cores and help Zion to be rebuilded. Rebuilded, yep, that's English. But it was only after halfway through the game is when the game started to get interesting. I was curious as to what was going on. The mystery started to form and started unfolding. So with stories like that, where you're told that this is the truth, but that's not exactly the case, there's something more happening, I feel like there needs to be hints dropped in the game throughout the story to generate that curiosity and to have that mystery. Now you're interested, now you're hooked, you realize that something is not right here. So you're now much more engaged into this storytelling that this game is trying to give you. So everything before that was very much boring. And the reason why was also because of the characters. Well, I already made up my mind who Eve is, even though the game didn't tell me. So I knew that her personality is not there, that she doesn't know how to emote, there's no emotions in her, and maybe her responses will be more monotonous or more robotic-like. But for someone like Adam, who is actually a human being, I thought his personality will be more. But it actually is not even present in the entire game. I would say that 95% of the game, Adam sounds absolutely monotonous and has no personality whatsoever. Very quickly, I got annoyed by his presence alone. While he was controlling a drone, but he would still be having these conversations. Very small conversations, but it would still be present. And I was very annoyed with those conversations, really. Now, the game constantly wanted you to be friends with Adam, or at least wanted that fact that Adam is always alongside you, always with you. But it really felt like Adam was interrupting the flow. I really wanted him to shut up many times. Here's a good example of how odd Adam sounds or how non-human Adam sounds. Much later in the game, I go through a side mission and eventually we get ambushed by a boss. It literally looked like it was a boss battle because of the space, and you know how a big open space looks like a boss battle area, obviously. And so eventually when the boss came down, it was kind of like an ambush. So Adam had a reaction saying, "Look." Really? That's all you could come up with? Look? I mean, you could have said anything. You could have given a genuine reaction. Like, for example, "Oh my God," or "Watch out," like something like that, like some genuine reaction that a human being will have. Instead of saying, "Look," that's not how a human being would react or would talk or would convey his kind of messages or his thoughts to anyone else. Even the way he delivered his line, it really felt like Adam was more of a robot than Eve. There is a voice director who directs the voice actor to sound that way or to speak that way. I don't know why that was decided with Adam. We got introduced to Lily, another character that obviously stays with you for a longer time. Now, Lily is having much more personality than Adam. She was probably the most engaging character because she was very charming, she was very bright, her personality and her way of delivery and everything felt really good and positive. There's a moment, again much later in the game, where Lily is the one controlling the drone, and it's you and Lily going through this adventure. I had a much better time, the amount of time I spent with Lily alone, than I had time with Adam. Lily had the best human reactions possible, had the best conversations possible. Everything that she was doing made complete sense.
This is the turret's motion sensor. What do we do now?
That's how you should react. The game wanted to make that connection between Adam and Eve. You know, Adam and Eve, it made sense. And much later in the game, and towards the end of the game actually, it made more sense why they have Adam and Eve as the name. But if you want to make this connection, you have to make Adam interesting, especially if Eve is considered to be that robotic figure. But until we went there, which is like almost to the end of the game, I had no connection whatsoever with Adam. Adam and Eve themselves had no connections at all. I don't know if that was the agenda for the game. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm drawing too much. Maybe I'm wanting too much from this game. Maybe I should be keeping down that expectation. However, I feel like with stories like these, there should be characters with good personality traits and voices that are not delivered in a monotonous way. Much later in the game, Eve also has that like personality kind of coming through her. It just felt real. It just felt genuine. So if you can do that towards the end of the game, Eve can also have small connections to Adam, and there could be that relationship, but it just never happened. And there's a perfect example to compare this game with, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn also has a similar problem where the beginning of the game is not that interesting enough, and it took time for players to finally get to a point where, okay, now I am interested in what the story is. Because for the most part, for the beginning at least, the players were of the idea that these machines, these killer machines, are very dangerous and they have been that way for so long, and now you are training yourself to be this hero who can save humanity. But since Aloy was able to find a device, she was able to find some things that generated a few bits of curiosity, but it really started, building up when you finally found what exactly is this and what these machines are, slowly and slowly. And that's where the game picks up, in my opinion. But in terms of Stellar Blade, that happens much later. It literally felt like it happened 10 hours later, even though I don't think so it's that long, but it literally felt like that. Again, maybe it's just me, maybe because I'm looking for story specifically, but in my eyes, I felt like there was more to the story. And again, there was, but it happened so much later that I was just following objectives because for the sake of it, I would skip all these dialogues because I just didn't want to hear them because they were all nothing. It just was a bunch of nothing. Once that twist happens and once the plot really started kicking off, things actually get interesting. We'll talk a little bit of spoilers over here, so be warned, but we get to know that Naytibas are actually humans, and this mother sphere, which is at the colony who sent us, is an AI created by humans. Now it started getting interesting because Naytibas are humans. They evolved themselves to be these Naytibas to fight against these androids. So now Eve has having those ideas of, have I been killing humans all this time? But again, she went back to this idea of like, no, I have been given this objective. I think they're still the enemies and we still need to take off this infection of this planet. So it made sense because that was her objective. And again, those are infections. Those were needed to be taken care of. Lily had also a similar kind of reaction. She was confused, worried, but she was still dedicated to the fact that no, it's false. It must be false because we got very small part of the truth. And from there onwards, every moment, slowly and slowly, we get to see more mystery being opened, more things being shown to us. And at the same time, the gameplay got to be better. You go to these new places, new locations, new gear, new, obviously, outfits, but you also have new enemies, new animation, new skills, lots of different things. And it was really fun to go through that. But again, towards the end, I lost touch with the story because I thought the story is going to go in a certain direction and something else happened, which I just was not able to digest so well. The idea of Adam and Eve was literally there, and it made more sense. Okay, why they had Adam and Eve as names. But this monologue that Adam gave towards the end, again, fell flat. I I didn't understand what his agenda was from the get-go. He would give these last hypercell to build Zion, and I just didn't understand why. Whatever he was saying just went all over my head. I just never connected. And at the same time, I feel like Eve also didn't, because she was very angry. She was emoting all these emotions on you had to kill all these people. And again, Adam felt flat. And I feel like that's the place where I truly feel that's why Adam has that personality, and it kind of fits there. Just that particular moment, because he was completely calm about it. He was completely okay. He felt like what he was doing is absolutely right. And I love that Adam. I love that worked there. But again, his explanation, his reasoning, I feel like whatever he was doing, it kind of didn't make sense. I don't know, like it just felt flat for me. And then obviously he had another moment after that because of the choices you make again. And that moment right there towards the end, or in the end, was very good. I love that moment. It had much more emotions. I could strongly get behind Eve. Even before we get to that place, I was strongly behind Eve because she, again, was behaving, having those emotions running through. And it made sense because eventually throughout the time, she is frustrated and she is very confused. Lily at the same time. I really like these two characters later on, again, towards the end. Now, of course, for you guys, it might be completely different. You might not care about the story. Maybe you do and it felt great for you. But for me, who is very much driven with stories and characters who also drive the stories, this game did not do that for me. And I really genuinely feel like if the characters were interesting, if they had more personality, if there was more connection between the characters, relationships, if that started to build over time, it made even more sense. It kind of would be more impactful towards the end between Adam and Eve. What do you guys think about the story? Do you think that it was very different? Do you agree with me? Maybe you don't agree with me and you completely hate all the points that I made. Let me know in the comments below. And if you really enjoyed this video, then leave a like and subscribe to see more, because I would love to make more behind the story videos of various games that I'm really playing right now.